The Culture Proof Conference is coming to Bartlett, Tennessee.
Man.
That is just outside of the
Almost
Memphis
here.
area, and we are super excited about it. If you're not registered, now is the time to get registered. As you
Yes.
look at the protests that are breaking out all across this country, you've got people barricading themselves inside classrooms. You've got people setting up encampments and feeling like they're entitled to do it. Well, joining us is Dr. Renton Rathbun, and Dr. Rathbun is the director of the Biblical Worldview, the Center for Biblical Worldview at Bob Jones University. And, you know, as a secular professor, he encountered some of these kids who feel entitled, these kids who feel like they are only willing to defend their parents' religion in as much as it doesn't cost them anything. And he's going to be speaking to some of our young people at this conference. So if you've got early adult, young adult, what do you call working class adult, maybe they're not yet married, and don't have children, they're going to want to participate in this Culture Proof Conference. We're really excited that God has equipped us to respond to what is happening in the culture. So we hope that you'll go to the website, cultureproof.net, and learn more about the conference, see who's speaking, think about what some of those topics are, and whether or not you and your family will benefit from this.
Yeah, and don't forget about our children's track. You know, we know that they are making the decisions right now at the age that they are in to follow the Lord. You know, their biblical worldview is being shaped, their worldview is being shaped. And so we have a powerful children's track, teens track. You're not going to want to miss that. This is something for the whole family.
Yeah.
For the whole family. And we want to minister to the whole family. We understand that the world understands that children are needed to carry out what they desire for them to do. We know for the kingdom of God, God wants the children to be a part of what He's going to do in the earth as well. So go to cultureproof.net, cultureproof.net. Now is the time to register. Now is the time to register. Registration will be ending soon. And so you want to make sure that you go to cultureproof.net and get your tickets for the Culture Proof Conference.
We believe it's going to be an encouraging time for you and hundreds of other believers who will be on site at Faith Baptist Church in July 18th through the 20th. We want to see you there. As my husband said, cultureproof.net, cultureproof.net. Get registered and tell a friend. Thanks for checking out Culture Proof. I'm Miki, and we are still live at the Rocky Mountain Homeschool Conference, and I'm here with my friend. This is my friend, Dr. Kathy Cook. She says I can call her Kathy, but I just can't build up to it. I feel like I just can't do it. Anyway, how are you doing?
Well, you're my friend. I'm super honored to be here.
Well, thank you.
I'm looking forward to our conversation because you always have bright things to say.
Well, you know what I'm curious about? You are speaking 6 times total at this particular convention, and you have been traversing like the world. Okay, the country. You've been in a lot of different places, and you've been meeting a lot of different parents. I'm curious to know, as the founder and president of Celebrate Kids, if you had to narrow down 2 questions that have been like the pervasive questions that you're getting from parents, what's our concern about our kids right now at this moment in this country?
One is definitely gender. And it's really sad to me, Miki. It doesn't matter what I speak on. Somebody will ask about either sexuality or gender. And what that says to me is that they're parenting from fear. Most people do not need to be concerned about it. It really, the gay and lesbian lobby would want us to think that every kid is going to go trans. It's not true. We know that's not true. So that concerns me because it's a fear-based kind of response. And yet, grateful to be in the space that they would trust me with something that's so personal and so important. So that's a question that comes up a lot.
Let me unpack that just for a second.
Sure.
So the question is not that they are having this question from their kid. The question is a general question. Is it, how do I navigate this? What do I do if?
That's a great question. Sometimes it is, my child came home from youth group, or sometimes it's school, not everybody does homeschool, and shocked us by saying, hey, I want to now be known as Carl, I'm no longer Carol. So sometimes it is, the individual child is confusing the parents. But you're correct, Miki, that most often it is, how should I best handle it if my child comes home and is questioning, his gender, or how can I handle it when my niece has decided to rather be my nephew? So often it's a family member, it's maybe a neighbor, it's somebody in the church that's in the youth group, and they don't want their kid influenced by the kid in the youth group anymore. So a little bit of everything. But gender's on everybody's mind.
And so, am I understanding correctly? You would say that this question, maybe if it's not a specific instance that a parent is relating to or referring to, that the question itself comes from a place of fear? Help us understand that.
I think so. I think they've watched the news.
Yeah.
They get the text alerts, if you will.
Yeah.
And they've seen it happen. They've seen it, neighbors and friends and people at work and people in their life group at church are coming up and saying, my granddaughter has now, made this tragic decision. It is a popular thing. It's not, most kids who are saying they're trans won't ever go forward with all of it. It's just a moment of, it's a desire for being known, and they know they'll be known if they come out as bi or trans, because now I'm popular and I get the red carpet treatment, which is one of the reasons that public schools are really unsafe places for a lot of our children. I will say that here on Culture Proof.
Sure.
So I think that's where the fear. Will it happen to me? Or I think it'll happen to me. It seems to be happening to everybody else, and it's not happening to everybody else.
That's good.
It just happens to be in the media, because why? They want us to think it's happening to everybody else, because they want the money and they want the vote, and they want it. I think they want us to be fearful, and and people know that fear is not of the Lord.
Yeah,
it's not wise. Does it make sense?
It does make sense. And again, as I often say about my friend, it's not only a ministry to kids and how we can relate to our kids, but I feel like you have a unique ability to be able to examine parents, like the hearts of parents, right? And go deeper. And I love that about you. I love that you are both looking at kids and looking at the parents. And so when I hear you say that parents are asking this question, which is indicative of parenting from a place of fear, my question is, do you perceive this to be a fear of failure? Like, are we afraid of this because it's a genuine concern for the eternities of our kids, the souls of our children? Or is it, I don't want to fail, and this seems to be like that one indicator that if this happens, there's just this immediate revelation that I have not done something right?
Oh, that's worded so well. What if I suggested that I'm afraid that the question is coming from a fear of reputation?
Oh, yeah.
I actually think it's about the parent, not about the kid. Often I would like for it to be about, I'm concerned for my child, and my child is beginning to think false thoughts about himself, and how can I better, boost his true identity, and how do I help him get away from the friends that are, lying to him. So sometimes I get that.
Yeah.
But I think, even in one of the seminars here today, I talked about it's not about you. It's about your children.
Yeah.
And if you're relating to people who are going to judge you as being a bad parent because you have a child who is perfectionistic or didn't make the soccer team or comes out as bi or trans, shame on them. Because we all ought to understand that this is a complex culture in which we live.
Yes.
And there are decisions being made left, right, and center for so many different reasons. So
and there's a common enemy.
Please.
There's a common enemy after our children.
Yes.
And I think if we as parents can recognize that, then we can recognize that the war is not for the saving of our reputation, right? But it's for the souls of our children.
Right. And, Miki, if a child thinks that it's not about him, like, how does that feel? I just can't even imagine. A child pours out his heart to his dad or to a mom, and I'm confused about who I am, and they've been calling me a sissy, or I thought it was a tomboy, and now they've said that maybe you're just a boy, and I don't know, and they're trying to be honest with you, right? They're trusting you with their heart. A really scary thing. If now it becomes about you, they're never going to share their heart with you again.
Yeah.
And so that's a really scary thing. So again, anybody who's listening to us, praise God they listen to Culture Proof. I think what you guys are doing is amazing. And we're not telling anybody to feel badly about what's been going on. These are hard days.
Right.
If you've navigated this, praise God you're navigating it, seriously, that you haven't abandoned it and put your head in the sand. That's not what Culture Proof is about.
That's right.
But I think we can get better, but I don't want people to feel badly about the way that they've maybe handled things. I don't know if that makes sense.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Well, no, it does make sense. And again, it provokes another question on my end, right? So I'm wondering what it sounds like when a parent has made a discussion, and we can move on. It doesn't have to be just about the gender question. What does it sound like when a parent has made a discussion about him or her and not about the kid, so that we can hear ourselves and know when the kid starts to check out?
Oh, that's really good. One of of the things that we all have a tendency to do, I'll even do it with friends, is somebody will, they'll talk about themselves, and I had a bad day at school, or I got cut from the soccer team. And they're like, oh, that's so sad. When I was your age, I got cut from the soccer team too, right? So we too quickly, and what I want parents to have empathy, and I want kids to know that you can understand their pain, because you flunked a test, or you cheated and got caught, or you babysat and you wrecked that, whatever the negative things are. They need to know that you understand. But you can't so quickly make it about you that they feel unheard, or that the whole story wasn't unpacked. Yeah. So what that says to us is we made assumptions about where they were going to go next in their story, right? Because I say we hijacked. And so we need to be quiet. Yeah. And, the recommendation that I think I make when a kid comes to us and says, I may be trans, or, man, Dad, I got cut from the team, and I really thought I had tried out and had tried hard to make it. Just be quiet. Yeah. And then say, keep talking, or tell me more, or help me understand. Because we have a tendency to interrogate. Well, how did that make you feel? Well, how many other kids got cut? Well, do you really think that you practiced enough? Which is guilt and shame, right? Right. And then again, no, just let them talk to you. Like, I was cut by the team, Dad, and my best friend made it, and I don't know. I probably should go to the games, and support him? Now, you can answer that direct question. Or you could say, well, what do you think? But get them to talk more. The more the children share the story, the greater the likelihood that the first thing you say will have impact.
Say that again.
The more they tell the story, the greater the likelihood that the first thing you say will be impactful, because it'll be relevant, because you know enough of the context of what really happened.
Okay, so, this is a paradigm shift, I think, for a lot of parents, right? Because we were told not too long ago that we needed to actively engage our kids. Like, when they show up to talk to us, we need to be in there, like, letting them know that we are present. But it almost feels like to kind of step back for a second and just listen, right? It's an active presence, but actively not.
Like, even your body language is passionate, like, I'm going to attack you, like, I want to know more, tell me more.
Yeah, imagine my kids.
Yeah. So that a little bit scary, know. So, no, it's really tricky, right? Because I teach people listen longer, listen with the intent to understand, not to judge or have your turn to talk. Yeah. I mean, I'm teaching that tomorrow at a session here, actually. So listen longer and be engaged. But let them own it. Don't assume. Because here's the thing, Mickey. If a kid comes and says, again, I was cut from the soccer team, well, how many other kids were cut? They weren't going to go there in the story. That was irrelevant to them. This is about them. Yeah. Right? And so they were going to share, Dad, you were right. I should have dribbled in the backyard more. That would have been an amazing thing for the dad to hear, right? That you could have then elaborated upon in the future. But instead of you hearing that, you asked a question relevant to you. I'm not saying that you did something wrong and it was irrelevant, but that's what I mean by you hijack their story and you force them to tell you something that might not actually be as relevant to them as you think it should be. Yeah. And then we never hear what's really under the surface. So it's awkward, right? Yeah. No, listen and engage. And lean in a really positive way. And at some point, you start to ask what I would call the interrogation questions, because kids tell me they interrogate me all the time. And, I've had some kids say, it's like my hands are tied to the chair and the bright light's in my eyes and I can't escape even if I wanted to. That's not an environment that we want our kids to think they're in. No. So we want to just kind of hang back and wait and slow down. And they're going to know that you love by the fact that you're present and you haven't run from the room, know. And then I think we could say, hey, help me understand. What else do you want me to know?
Okay, so that question that you just asked was the very next question in my mind. So in light of what you're communicating, how do I communicate to my child that I understand without asking those questions? So do I just say, I understand? Because see, that feels empty to me.
Right. We could parrot back their words. Okay. I hear you say that you felt unseen by the coach and you didn't feel like you got a fair shot. Okay. You feel like you didn't have as many minutes on the field as is that what I'm hearing you say? So are you telling me that you didn't make the team because the coach was unfair? And then just wait. Yeah. Well, yeah, I'm not sure he was really fair, but I wasn't as good as those 3 other kids that he looked at longer. So parrot back what you think that you've heard would be a good process,
Yeah.
perhaps. And it is okay at some point to say, when you're ready to hear it, I have a story from my life.
Yeah.
You know Grandpa, and you know how Grandpa can be kind of quick to judge. I have a story that, in the way that I resolved my feelings, might be helpful to you. When you're ready, let me know. If you're ready, let me know.
Okay, so that is such a challenge for me.
Is it?
Right, yeah. And I'm so glad to hear you say that, because I want that challenge. I want to be provoked in that way. Because I think what I'll speak for myself. I think I'm not alone in this. I think many parents parent from an assumption. And we assume that the kid wants to hear about our experience that relates to what they're saying. However, when you just said, when you're ready, if you want to hear, I would like to share with you something that just humanized my child, right?
Yeah.
And my child is not just my child. My child is a person who has feelings and thoughts and desires.
Wow.
That I thought I was respecting by, hey, let me tell you about this time.
Yeah.
But hearing the way you worded that, it feels more human. It feels more natural to them as a person and not just my child.
That's fascinating. And here's the thing. If you share your story and they don't want to hear it, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
If you have a story that's relevant, and the way that you process your grief and your fear with the way that your dad handled it, if that's a relevant illustration that you think would help your son or daughter, build up some stamina and some courage to walk through their valleys, then you want to save that until they're willing to hear and learn from you.
Yeah.
And if they're still emotionally bound and they're still, stressed and confused and overwhelmed by what's going on and truly disappointed. And when we're disappointed, we don't think clearly.
Right.
So then we wait and we make it about them.
Yeah.
And what I think is really cool is if I say to somebody, even a friend, but if I say to somebody, hey, if you'd like to hear the story, let me know. Yeah, tell me the story.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you feel honored?
Yeah, absolutely.
And if your son or daughter
Absolutely.
comes back to you at bedtime that night or breakfast the next morning, that is significant.
Yeah.
That they were processing that like, whoa, I think that's love.
That's
right?
so good.
I think that's honor. So
Yeah.
that means we don't say it unless we're willing to share.
Yeah,
Right?
that's right.
And we don't throw our dad under the bus. We don't throw Grandpa under the bus.
That's right.
However, if there was something that, if the kids know there's a personality there and we can help them navigate it, I think that's good. And then we ask questions like, is there anything in that situation that you would have changed if you could have? It's a great question. Well, I would have practiced more. Or, I think I looked mad. Like, I think I was probably not wouldn't it be great to have a kid say, I don't think I was a good ambassador for Christ in the way I handled that?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So I think that's a good question. Is there something you would do differently the next time?
Yeah.
Or, okay, so clearly, like a week later, you say, hey, are you still processing the grief of getting cut from the team? And, how are you doing with that? And if you don't ever want that to happen again, what would have to change?
Yeah.
So we can use all of this, ideally as, teachable moments and as, opportunities to improve what's going on.
Yeah, this what I'm hearing you say, Dr. Kathy, encourages self-awareness, not mom or dad awareness.
Ooh, that's good.
You know what I mean? Like it makes the kid responsible for how he or she is really processing, and not in light of what I'm saying, but like what they experienced.
And then won't they then take what they've learned in this encounter into the next situation?
Yeah.
Right? I think so.
Yeah.
So and I love talking about it. And it's funny that I used the example a lot of if I'm cut from the team. And that's in my mind. I'm a former athlete and coach. But one of the questions I get a lot from parents today is about perfectionism and is about, is it true that practice makes perfect? And of course it doesn't. And how do I handle it when my kid is disappointed? And, do I need to find more opportunities for my kid to perform? So that example of cut from the team, like that's real. We live in that space.
That's right.
It could be, I forgot a piano piece at the recital and it was embarrassing. Or
Yeah.
it could be, why is my sister called to babysit a lot and I'm not? I mean, there's all kinds of things that cause very strong, real disappointment. And I'm proud of every parent who's available and every parent who has the strength to yet process another difficult moment with a kid, because we have our own disappointing moments.
That's right.
Because we live in this real world too.
Yeah. BJU Press Homeschool is the premier sponsor of the Culture Proof podcast. Did you know that homeschoolers are a threat to a secular culture? It's true. For a society that envisions public education as the means by which it will indoctrinate future generations, destroy the proliferation of the gospel, and disintegrate the republic, homeschoolers are de facto revolutionaries. But all homeschooling is not created equal. What makes your kid's education Christian is not the fact that you are one. This is why we trust BJU Press Homeschool to help us seamlessly disciple our children, even in their core subjects. We don't want a secular education that uses Bible verses as frosting. We want the knowledge of God preserved at every phase of what our kids are taught. Consider BJU Press Homeschool for all of your homeschooling needs. We trust them to back us as we grow the resistance. You can too. Visit bjupress.com today. That's bjupress.com. Well, that takes me to what I was curious about the second question, because, by the way, all of that was like, so what's the number one question that you're getting? Okay,
well,
don't you love how we can
You are a question machine.
I'm actively listening to what you're saying. And see, this could be scary for my kids.
Yes.
Because I do have questions, not because I'm not connected, but because I am so connected, but I also can be self-controlled.
Well,
right?
You're culture proof. Like, you do this for a living. Your children know, I'm sure, that when you and Will talk to them, they're going to be an episode. There's an episode coming down the road about that. No, you're careful. No, I know that you guys are really careful.
We do have to run it by them.
I know. But
you're right.
But can you imagine? It's like, the joke is, if I had kids, for people who don't know me, I tell other people what to do with theirs, and I don't have any, and it's so much fun. 30 countries, 50 states, but I'm just going to be a best practice girl. Would you want to be my kid? Nobody should grow up being my kid.
Can you imagine?
That would not be a safe space. And so,
story after story after story.
Gosh. And the expectation that would be upon them, and so your kids, when you and Will talk with them about culture proof, and you bring to attention their sin or their beauty and their righteousness, I think that's phenomenal. They know who you are. You're experts in this field. The passion the two of you have to get it right and to help others get it right is huge. And I can only imagine that that's a beautiful thing for your children, to be raised with that. And there's probably some days when they're like, oh no, here Dad goes again.
Yeah, there are those moments. And I have to survey myself. And I have to make sure that I'm not more than is necessary in the moment.
Oh, that's so good.
If I could just be real with you, I have to survey myself.
That's good.
And sometimes just say, I can say, I just really don't know right now. Can I talk to you about that in a minute? I need to process that,
That's so valid. Start over. Like, I just was talking to somebody at my exhibit booth here at the conference, and they started talking and I wasn't fully present. And so I needed to stop and say, I'm so sorry.
Yep.
Would you mind starting again? That honors
That's good.
them.
That's right.
So, but for your kids, you have every right to say, man, it's late and I'm tired and my brain is full of a lot of other words.
Yes.
So, give me some space and then let's try. You're a wise mom to do that. And most kids are not going to take that as a rejection. They're going to take that as, okay, she cares enough to want to prepare well, to be able to hear my heart and my words.
That's good. Man, that's good. I wish we could, I don't wish we could pre-program the responses, but I want the responses to always be from that place of understanding, which is why I work so hard and ask these questions, because I feel like I am not alone in this desire. I feel that parents we want to do well to the glory and honor of God. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And each of us, if we're honest, we are afraid that in some way we're going to miss something that is going to have dire consequences in the lives of our children. You know what I mean?
And we might.
Don't just leave it there, Dr. Kathy. Follow up quickly.
Don't.
In that gap right there, my heart starts racing. I need you to say other words.
We don't want them to turn the show off, huh?
No.
Yeah, no, we might, because we're human, and the culture's chaotic, and the devil's real, and kids are confusing, and we're overwhelmed, and we've got babes in Christ, parenting babes in Christ, and so this is why, I podcast and write, and it's why you podcast and do what you do, because it is a confusing world out there. And so this is why we would say no shame or blame for yesterday. Parents do the best job they know how to do.
Yes.
It is extremely rare to find a parent who chooses to be bad at parenting.
Yeah.
Now, here's what I think happens, my friend. I think what happens to a lot of us is we look back on our old parenting with today's knowledge and judge ourselves unfairly. When you parented your children 5 years ago, a year ago, 6 months ago, you parented with the wisdom you had, with the understanding you had about them, yourself, and culture. Now you've been to conferences, you've read books, you've been listening to Culture Proof podcasts, you have all this other wisdom, and now you look back and go, I was so, quote unquote, stupid. No, you weren't stupid. 6 months ago, you did what you knew how to do, and you did it well.
That's encouraging.
And now you look back, and so, we got to be really careful of like a self-judgment, right? So this is why I say you look forward with hope. You don't look back with shame and blame.
That is so good. Let me just stay there for a second, because I know that there are many parents, there are moms and in particular grandmoms that we hear from who listen to our podcast, and they will say things. They will email us and write in and say, man, I wish I could go back and do it again.
Yeah.
I just didn't know these things. So it is life-giving to hear you encourage moms, myself included, with we did the best that we could with what we knew at the time that we were doing it.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And the culture wasn't as bad off as it was either.
That's right.
So, I mean, the devil was still there, and there was still certainly negativity and, stuff. But no. We've got to be very, very careful. Or then we give up and we think, no, I can't do this. No, you are doing it.
Amen.
And what we would say, I know that you and Will agree with me, on your worst day, you are your child's best teacher.
Yes.
On your worst day, you're your child's best parent, because God ordained the family before He ordained the church, and
Amen.
you are the perfectly imperfect parent for every one of your perfectly imperfect kids.
Yes.
And this is what you wake up believing and go to bed singing in the reality. And we're very careful of misinterpreting, So who are we listening to?
Yeah.
Yeah. And do we have critical people in our lives who are causing us to doubt? Then we separate, just like we want our kids to separate from the naysayers.
Yeah.
And go, you know what? In my growing maturity, I'm going to decide that woman at church is not good for me.
Yeah. Oh, that's so
good. And that's
good.
hard.
Yes.
That's part of what we have to do, right?
Yeah. I want to go back to something that you said. Oh, my goodness, Dr. Kathy. I feel like this was back in 2021. We were in Virginia, and we were doing a radio interview together.
Yes.
And you said something that was just so stunning to me. You were talking about parents and parenting their kids, and you said one of the big complaints that I get from kids is that the parents think that they have told them not to do something or to do something, but they haven't. And then they correct the kid or discipline the kid based on the belief that they communicated it, and the kid is saying, no, but you didn't say that. You didn't say that. And so at the time, I thought, wow, that's really sad. You know what I mean? I can't believe that parents would hold their kids to this standard that they have not set, that they have not clearly communicated. And then fast forward, here we are in 2024, where I've got older kids now who are saying to me, but you didn't say that I could. I didn't know that I couldn't do that.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And I'm thinking, but that's in a category of things that we have discussed. So what I'm asking you here, mercy, Dr. Kathy, before you get going, help me understand what things as a parent I am able to categorize and what things I should expressly expect that I told you this, and so then I can hold you to it. Because that's confusing for me as a mom.
I don't have a clue how to answer that question.
Do you not? Really?
Oh man, I think it's fascinating. And so what I hear from kids pretty continually is they tell me what to do and they think it was helpful.
Okay.
But they were quick, or I was distracted, or I didn't have a good attitude, so I didn't really want to learn how to do it. And so there are excuses. They know that what they're telling me is I messed up.
Yeah.
I should have said, Mom, start over, kind of like I just did with the lady at the booth. But children tell me all the time they're afraid to tell you that you're not doing it well because they don't think they have a right to judge you. So they listen to the telling of how. My favorite example is how to fill a dishwasher. And so you told it, but you do it. You've done it. You could do it in your sleep, and you could do it sleeping. I mean, seriously.
Right.
And so you're just very quick. The glasses go here and the silverware goes here.
Yes.
But what you didn't tell them was that these glasses never go in there. And don't put the bowl here, it'll stop the water flow or whatever, you know. And so then kids are like, no, she says she taught me, but what they say is she told me what to do, and then she yelled at me when I didn't do it. Now they say yelled at me. I don't know what that means for sure.
It's usually not true. Go ahead.
Right.
We don't yell, Dr. Kathy.
No,
you know that moms don't yell.
No, it's a tone of voice.
Right.
It's a body language stature.
Yeah.
It's something that happens that causes them to feel judged.
Yeah.
Right. And so teaching is slow down. and give the details. What is it? What isn't it? When do you do it? Where do you do it? How do you do it? Why do you do it? Who do you do it with? I mean, that, like in my newest book, I talk about teach like a reporter thinks. So this is how we do it, and this is why, and this is where and when, and all of that. And that takes time and energy, and we have to think it through. And for a lot of us, it's automatic. You know, we do it automatically, and so it's hard for us to break it down for the afraid kid who's insecure, who has an older brother who's already doing it really well, and now you're going to let them do it? And there's fear there.
Yeah.
And you don't mean to have that happen, but it does in a lot of our families. So do we give them permission to ask for clarification? In fact, what I would love for us to do, and this takes real humility on our part, is to say, have I been clear? What question would you like to ask me? Like, give them permission.
That's good.
What question would you like to ask me?
That's really good.
Mom, at the very beginning you said something, give them permission for clarity,
Yeah.
right? Because they're little kids. Or, you know, I talked to a kid once who was so excited to be old enough to cut the lawn. He was waiting to be old enough to cut the lawn. He thought it would be so cool and so much fun. So he was excited and therefore didn't really listen closely, and then got so overwhelmed when it was his turn, afraid to ask Dad for clarity. And if Dad would have just said, hey, it's overwhelming, I get it, I'm right here. What do you need? What do you need to know? So that they feel better about it, and so do we. That makes sense?
No, it really does. When we resist those cultural trends that rival the truth, we remain culture proof. Until next time, Lord willing, God bless. It really does. Okay, so before we wrap up this episode, because we could go on forever. Like I think I gave you a time that I would like to have with you. I'm sure we're well over it, but it's just because we go from one thing to the next. Are we doing okay?
We're doing great.
I'm not sure what. Did someone just pull a fire alarm?
This is real.
Attention. An emergency has been reported.
Where's the phone?
All occupants walk to the nearest stairway
No.
and walk down to your assigned re-entry floor or main lobby.
I think we should do it because your kids are here, but can we not do it? We should do it. Keep talking.
Okay, well, I'm just going to wrap up this
Wrap it
podcast
up, and then we can
episode.
do another
okay,
episode.
we'll do it. Okay.